J'ai une invitée tout à fait spéciale qui nous rejoint en amont de la projection de son premier documentaire de long métrage Demand Mineral, Hadley Austin. Hello,
Bonjour. Hello.
how does it feel to be speaking with France a few hours before your screening at Slamdance? I understand this is a premiere for you.
It's very exciting. Yeah, we premiered in Germany in May, and this is an exciting stop on our film's journey. And it's especially nice to be speaking with France right now because part of the film is made in France.
The first question I want to ask you before we dive in is the multi-generational aspect of your film, and especially the story. You directed this film, which was also co-written by Dr. Tommy Rock. I hope my phonetics is correct, and
Mhm.
produced by Emma Robbins,
Mhm.
who is probably getting ready for the premiere right now, the screening at Slamdance. I want to ask you about how you developed the film over these 4 years. In particular, how did you manage to tell the story of this community, Navajo reservation, Navajo community? How did you reach out to them, know them, and did you receive support from local organizations that you knew prior to filming this?
Yes, I lived in a small town that borders the Navajo Nation for many years, and uh, folks who are in the film are they're friends, and they are friends of friends, and they are friends of friends of friends. It was definitely a film made by the community.
Was it important to you to receive the support of former Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland?
Yeah, we were grateful. She's a very busy woman, and we interviewed her when she was still a senator for the state of New Mexico, but she was very busy. And I think that it says a lot about um, the importance of the issue to her that she took time out to speak with us. And I do believe that it is an issue that especially resonates with her because she is from Laguna Pueblo, which is a tribe and a tribal space that neighbors the Navajo tribal space, and it is site to the largest open pit uranium mine in the world. So she is, immediately versed with the negative impacts of this.
Among our youth in France, there is a lot of eco-anxiety. The way you tell this story with such beautiful cinematography is certainly impressive. Um, do you think that art is our best ally today to improve science and also sometimes to be independent and go further than the sorry consequences that science could have?
I do think that the way that art allows for a more expansive kind of communication is essential. And I think it is essential, especially when it comes to science, because I think many people are intimidated by anything that's labeled science. I think that many people sort of power down and stop listening. And I don't think it's out of truculence or resistance. I think it's out of an anxiety of not understanding. I think that many people feel that this is something beyond what they could possibly comprehend. And generally, of course, that's not true. Science is studied long-term observation. It's something that arguably we are all doing. And certainly that was a goal with the film, was to sort of demystify certain scientific elements and also to introduce to people, maybe for the first time, certain very poetic scientific notions such as geological time or um, astrological time. But one thing that was very important to me, I think everyone who worked on the film, everyone had their own goals and they were all aligned with one another. But one goal that I had that was very important was to help people to understand that the nuclear fuel chain is only green right in the middle of its process, and that the start of its process, extraction, is very environmentally damaging in very long-term ways, ways that arguably are in some ways permanent. And even the back end of nuclear power, such as storage, transportation, that sort of thing, also very ecologically unsound. And I think a lot of people just don't know that. I think that if they did know that, they might feel differently and they might vote differently and they might voice things differently. So yes, certainly I do think that using this medium, this very artistic medium, to convey that was important.
You mentioned the phase of production that was set for France. That could be a right time to address this. Why choosing France to support your story?
There were two reasons. One is that Navajo uranium went a lot of places. It was dug up and it went all over the world, and it was turned into pottery glazes and it was turned into weapons. And we also know that Marie Curie used it in her lab. And one reason I wanted to show that was because the records of where that uranium went, most of those records are gone. Most of these mines are abandoned. There's over 500 of them in just the Navajo Nation area alone. Most of them are abandoned, and the records of sale are lost to history. But we do know that that uranium did go to Paris because it's documented. Her records show it. Marie Curie's records show it. So that was one reason I wanted to explore that connection, was to just show that this traveled. But I also wanted to at least spend one brief moment in a space where some of this uranium was used for something that was arguably good. You know, we know that many soldiers who were injured in World War I did not lose limbs because of X-ray technology. We know that cancer treatment advancements were made and by her lab, and this was done in part with Dene uranium. So that's part of the legacy of this, a very small legacy, but one little bright spot in this dark legacy. And another reason I wanted to spend some time in France is France relies so heavily on nuclear power and has more nuclear processing facilities than most countries in Europe. And it's a point of great contention, both within France, as I'm sure you know, and between France and its neighbors. And so it's also just a little nod, a quiet nod in many ways to the current political landscape.
Slam Dance, today, what's an achievement? What are you hoping for this screening to gain for the film in terms of attention, international recognition, and legacy?
Well, obviously, we want all of those things. um, I think more than anything, in a lot of ways, in addition to those really lofty, broad goals, I also want people to watch it here in the state of Utah, where for the first time in 8 years, 2 new uranium mines have been opened. There is active uranium mining in the United States, new uranium mining for the first time in 8 years. And 2 of those mines are in the very state that we are screening in today. So I also hope that it fosters discussion here in this place where the concerns are immediate.
And also, just for the Navajo reservation, the community who do not have access to such a powerful media as cinema, which is understandably not so accessible to everyone. Um, and as Deb Haaland said, this is an important tribute to all those who tried to protect. This is your debut. Uh, what is the next step in your career? I mean, it sounds very obvious that your next career move will be also environmentalist. Um, I assume that with this film, you're also hoping to achieve something in reality that's actually impacting the community in a good way.
Yes, there's a lot of great film that comes out of the Navajo Nation. And I do wish it saw more light. But I do hope that this film does elevate the status of all of the people who have spent their lives advocating for a safer living space in that region. I hope that people see their work. I hope that people appreciate their work. I hope that people understand how hard and also how beautiful that work is. And I hope that the film is seen broadly and that is one of the results. Everywhere we screen that's in the area around the Navajo Nation, we make sure that there are free screenings for Indigenous community members so that they don't have to pay for a ticket. They can see this story that is their story without any barriers. In terms of my next projects, they are many of them are environmentally focused. I have 3 I'm sort of juggling right now, all in partnership with the same DP for this film, Yoni Goldstein. One is a kind of auto fiction piece about environmental activists after September 11th in the United States. One is a documentary about urban geology. And another is an exploration of how we all live in a body, but that is a very different experience for all of us.
So both of these projects are documentary. Are you focusing on documentary so far, or are you also keeping fiction in mind to better elevate the status that you mentioned before?
The 2 of these projects are straight documentary, or at least as straight documentary as Demon Mineral is. And then the auto fiction piece will have some narrative elements. I enjoy playing at the edges of genre, and I am enjoying experimenting with some screenwriting. So at this point, it's still very early stages. We'll see how it evolves, but we'll see where my creative yin takes me.
And to conclude this interview before you're headed to your screening at Slamdance today, how much do you believe in creativity to elevate those debates, which could be sometimes difficult between science and art or geographical understandment? How much do you believe that creativity can actually achieve the change that you're looking forward to so much?
It's a good question. I think that we have to become really comfortable, all of us, all the time, with the notion that change will always be slower than we want it to be, and that change may not happen in our lifetime. I think we have to be comfortable being one voice that is followed by another voice, a voice that influences another voice. I think that one of the things that best illustrates an answer to that question is the archival footage that's in Demon Mineral, actually. There are 2 films from the 1980s. The directors of those films were very nice. They let us use some of their footage to illustrate the ways that in which some things have not changed and how that is infuriating. And these 2 films, one is called Four Corners, if you want to watch it. The other one is called Broken Rainbow. But they are part of this chain. And Demon Mineral is also part of this chain. And it happens almost 40 years later. We're still talking about the same thing. In that time, only 3 mines have been cleaned up. And we have to point out that that is not okay. But we also have to make peace with the fact that we are making art for the people who come after us, in addition to making art for the people who are watching it right now. I do think that one of the things that art has that affords the possibility for change is lasting power. You know, it stays around. It's the kind of stuff that gets put in archives. It's the kind of stuff that gets put in libraries. I don't know that it creates overnight change, but I do think that it does play an important role in a slow and important shift.
Hadley Austin, your film Demon Mineral is your debut and is screening at Slamdance today. We will include all information in the French article, but it's beyond this podcast. Merci for taking the time today.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me.